of his fellow Jews everywhere. Yet few men in history were the focus of such calumny, vehemence, vitriol, splenic invective, and irrational hatred. It took a great soul to survive such tremendous adversities and pressures. Kahane had a powerful intellect, was a perspicacious analyst of current events, and a potent seer of future ones, having forewarned of the intifadas and worse yet to come long ago. The sheer volume of his writings was prodigious, and he lectured and debated tirelessly. He had great love of Torah and the Jewish people, literally having given his life to help Jews everywhere. Sephardi Chief Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu said that, quote, Kahane represented the true spirit of Tanakh Judaism, and that he was a Gilgul, a reincarnation of a biblical warrior who knew no fear. Kahane's eviction from the 1988 election process on grounds of gazanut, racism in inverted commas, and the attempts to try him for sedition were nothing but crass politics and a dread of seeing Kahane in the Knesset with 12 seats. He sometimes wrote with anger, but his cause was nothing less than the survival of a Jewish Israel. His chastisements were unfortunately not taken in their proper context. His medicine may have been too strong for some to take, but its mere presence, even on the shelf, served an important purpose. Rabbi Meir Kahane and his son Binyamin Zev Kahane deserve credit for making otherwise complacent Jews aware of some uncomfortable facts. As it says in Yeshaya 57, Hatzadik oved ve'ein ish sam alev, va'anshe chesed ve'esofim ve'ein mevin, ki mipnei hara ne'esof hatzadik. The righteous man perishes, and no one lays it to heart. Devout men are taken away, and no one understands that the tzaddik, the righteous, are taken away from the evil that is yet to come. Whether one calls it a disengagement, a deportation, an eviction, a pogrom, or an ethnic cleansing, Ariel Sharon's forced hitnatkut of 10,000 Jews by other Jews in front of a gloating world media in 2005, and the handing over of their bulldozed God-given homes and enterprises to their enemies, dealt a body blow to the morale and abiding land-centered faith of the people of Israel, installing Hamas, who went on to be able to reach all of Israel with their rockets. As foretold in Zephaniah 2, Ki Aza Azuva Tzihye va'Ashkelon l'shmoma, Ashdod b'tzohoraim yigrashuha ve'ekron ta'aker. Gaza will be forsaken, Ashkelon made desolate, Ashdod driven out at noonday, and Ekron uprooted. Ariel Sharon, 1928 to 2014, was raised on a radical left-wing moshav of Subbotnik, Sabbatarian ancestry, and claims have been made that Sharon may not even have been halachically a Jew. He was renowned for his brutality against Etzel fighters during the Saison, already in the 1940s, brutality against fellow Jews. Already back in 1977, even whilst Sharon was the darling of the settlers in Gaza, Judea and Samaria, Meir Kahane warned, quote, do not trust Sharon. He will betray you. He is a left-wing plant who has been emplaced in the right-wing camp, unquote. And in 1982, Sharon ruthlessly leveled the Jewish Sinai paradise of Yamit. As quoting Professor Paul Eidelberg, the Gaza deportation was a worse Chilul Hashem, a worse profanation of God's name than even the Holocaust. Sharon entered his 8-year coma 6 months to the day after a highly publicized pulsa d'onura, a public lashes of fire curse ceremony in Rosh Pina, whose wording was, quote, "Upon Ariel, the son of Vera of the family Scheinemann, we request permission to call on the celestials and to seek that the angels of destruction draw out the sword against this Rosha, that they should not show him mercy nor forgive his sins, and that all his good deeds should be forgotten. Kol tzidkaso asher asa lo sizacharna. All the righteousness which he did should not be remembered. Yecheskel 18. Powerful words. And also on the sinners that are his accomplices. As it says, Yismach tzadik ki chozon nokom pa'amav yirchatz badam rosha. The righteous will rejoice when he sees vengeance. He will wash his feet in the blood of the wicked. Tehillim 58. For his having betrayed his brothers and for attempting to hand over to our enemies, the Bnei Yishmael, the land of Israel. May the anger of the Lord be strengthened against him." Unquote. Despite their previous heroism, self-sacrifice and good deeds, some men wreak such damage to Jewish property and spirit that they lose everything and end up getting no credit, it being the way of Hashem that their name not even be remembered in Olam Haba, in the afterlife. Menachem Begin, 1913-1992, spoke an excellent near-biblical Hebrew. He had great Ahavas Yisrael and had empathy for the Torah observant, as a result of the time that he was forced to spend hiding in yeshivas during his Irgun days, hiding from the British. If not for Begin's no-compromise attitude, as displayed in the King David Hotel bombing, the Officers' Club bombing, the night of the beatings, the Akka prison break, the Sergeant's affair, and many other attacks, the British would never ever have left the Holy Land, and we today would still be in British-mandated Palestine. A case can even be made that Menachem Begin was responsible for hastening the end of the British Empire. When those in India, Malaya, Burma, Ceylon, Cyprus, Uganda, Sudan, Kenya, Nigeria, Jamaica, etc., the British Empire, saw how a handful of Jewish fighters had forced the withdrawal of the mighty British, they were emboldened to follow likewise and seek independence, thanks to Menachem Begin. However, Begin was the first Israeli prime minister to use the word Palestinians, something that his Labour Party predecessors, Ben-Gurion, Moshe Sharet, Levi Eshkol, Golda Meir, and Yitzhak Rabin had studiously avoided. Begin thereby paved the way for the Oslo disaster. It is alleged that at Camp David, Begin was deliberately drugged by the Americans to the point of compliance, to comply with Jimmy Carter. He later had great remorse over having ceded Sinai for a piece of paper, and in particular for the 1982 bulldozing of Yamit by Ariel Sharon, which today would have become a paradisiacal second Tel Aviv. This retreat, together with his snatching of defeat from the jaws of victory, also in the year 1982, when, contrary to the urgings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he actually allowed Yasser Arafat and his trapped 14,000 PLO terrorists to escape from Beirut in good order intact. And these are the two main blots on Menachem Begin's legacy. The outrageous canard by Joe Biden likening Donald Trump to Joseph Goebbels brings to mind the statement of Rabbi Avigdor Miller in February 1984, when Reagan was seeking re-election. Quote, from tape 495, Rabbi Avigdor Miller. "And now Reagan is up for re-election. Everybody must know it's an ideal to vote for Reagan. Not because we love Reagan so much. I have nothing against him. But we love him because of his opponents. He has such rotten Democrat opponents that we have no choice. Every one of them is mamash a dead rat. A dead rat. They smell like dead rats. Every one of them. They're terrible, his opponents. We have no choice. And we must go out and work and wake up the people and tell them that it's a sakona, even more than in 1980. We have to work hard that Reagan should be re-elected. Not because of Reagan, but just to keep those other fellows out of office, unquote. Reichsminister für Volksaufklärung und Propaganda, Dr. Goebbels, 1897 to 1945, the viperous poisoned wolf, almost single-handedly kept World War II going for another 2.5 years by rallying the Nazis with his infamous Total Krieg speech, his total war speech in 1943, at a moment when their morale almost collapsed after the defeat of the Germans at Stalingrad. Together with his strident Deutsche Wochenschau newsreels that gave the German masses the impression that they were winning, even though each victory was taking place closer and closer to the borders of the Third Reich. Goebbels mightily facilitated the Holocaust with 2 films in particular. His wicked Der ewige Jude, The Eternal Jew, which is the most scandalously racist film ever made. And even more effective at promoting anti-Semitism was his second film, the scurrilous historical drama Jud Sus, Jew Sus, about the martyred 18th century court Jew Sus Oppenheimer. Ish loshon bal yikon ba'aretz. Hashem, do not establish the man of evil tongue in the land. Tehillim 1:14. For brazenly beseeching the deity to assist him in his machinations against us, cynically referring to Jews as unser Mishpocha, our family. Goebbels, together with Hitler, is even now being appropriately punished. As it says in the Midrash, the praises of Hashem rising from those in Gehenna surpass the praises of those basking in Gan Eden. Adolf Eichmann, 1906 to 1962, recited the Shema Yisrael in Hebrew when he was captured in Argentina. Israeli jailers were amazed how Eichmann recited brochas in Hebrew whilst in prison. In fact, Eichmann had visited Palestine in 1937 and had had talks with the leaders of the Jewish Agency. In 1952, Rudolf Kastner, a high-ranking Labour Party official, was accused by journalist Malchiel Greenwald of having worked hand-in-hand with Eichmann to murder 800,000 Hungarian Jews, while saving his own family and several hundred associates, and the Budapest Jewish Council. Eichmann even had Kastner dressed in an SS uniform and took him to Belsen to rescue his friends. When Yoel Brandt informed Israel's future Prime Minister Moshe Sharet that Eichmann was offering to release all of Hungary's Jews in exchange for 700 trucks, that's almost 1 million Jews in exchange for 700 lorries, Sharet immediately had him arrested by the British in Aleppo, and nothing came of a glorious rescue opportunity. Nothing. The sordid details implicating the Labour Party leadership and others came out in the 1955 Kastner trial. Kastner's own assassination in Tel Aviv in 1957 was very suspicious, as was the disappearance of the man who did more than anyone to try and save Hungarian Jewry, the Swede Raoul Wallenberg. In 75 years, despite hundreds of Nazi murderers to choose from, the only one who was ever hunted down by the Israelis, the only one, Adolf Eichmann. And it is claimed, why? Because he knew too much about the Jewish establishment's negligence in the murder of Hungary's 800,000 Jews. For more on this, see the books Perfidy by the famous American playwright Ben Hecht and Shabtai Tzvi, Labour Zionism and the Holocaust by Barry Chamish, 2004. On the vexed question of whether the Allies could have bombed Auschwitz, the rumors of death camps received in late 1943 and early 1944 were enough to order the Royal Air Force, the RAF, reconnaissance flights. They wanted to check it out. There were 5 aerial photography missions flown between early April and November 1944. The first flight was before the flood of Hungarian Jews arrived as part of SS operations to eliminate that country's Jewry commanded by Adolf Eichmann. This mission photographed a new rail spur that, unknown to the photo interpreters, was part of the upgrade of Birkenau's facilities to handle the influx of Hungarian Jews. The next mission was flown on June the 26th, near the end of the first phase of the German deportations, by which time many of the Hungarian Jews had already passed through the gas chambers. Lo aleinu. It was feasible that the Allies could have carried out a precision bombing raid to cut the rail link or to destroy the gas chambers, which had been pinpointed. Instead, the Allies chose to raid the IG Farben-Buna rubber plant at Auschwitz-Monowitz because they viewed it as a more viable target. Such was the German commitment to Judenschlag that, as Eichmann testified, if one set of tracks had been bombed, the trains would go on a different set, albeit more roundabout. The trains would find a way through. That was the Nazi commitment to Judenschlag. However, other German witnesses stated post-war that had the Allies destroyed the rail link, it would have taken months to repair due to the lack of materials. But even if the railway lines had been completely destroyed, the Nazis would have redirected prisoners to other camps via truck for execution, or else they would have sacrificed some of their customary secrecy and installed the mass murder equipment further west, for example to Mauthausen, Buchenwald or Dachau. And from their point of view, why would the Allies bother? It wouldn't have progressed their war effort a single iota. Their war against Germany was not about saving Jews, regardless of the image of World War II that we are presented with today. Mechamas achicha Yaakov tichsech busha v'nichras le'olam. As it says in Ovadia, because of the oppression of your brother Yaakov, you will blanch with shame and be cut off forever. You stood by on the day that foreigners plundered his wealth and aliens entered his gates. You too are like one of them. You should not have stood at the exit point to destroy his refugees. Va'al tiska shrido beyom tzora. You should not have handed over his remnant on the day of disaster. Unquote Ovadia. The head of the RAF Bomber Command, Air Chief Marshal Arthur Bomber Harris, whose motto for his force, paraphrased Ar Novi Hosea chapter 8, Ki ruach yizra'u v'sufosa yiktzoru. The Germans have sown the wind, and now they are going to reap the whirlwind. When interviewed by the Ma'ariv newspaper in 1961, he said, quote, I cannot recall that I ever heard of such a plea to bomb Auschwitz. To the best of my recollection, I never knew of the existence of the German extermination camps until we liberated Bergen-Belsen in 1945. Heard nothing. In 1935, Heinrich Himmler, 1900 to 1945, founded the Deutsche Ahnenerbe, the German Ancestral Heritage Organization, in an attempt to create a new religion by reviving unorthodox cosmologies, occult science, pagan beliefs, and magical principles in music, symbology, geomancy, architectural design, claiming to derive from the era of the pyramids, Stonehenge, and ancient Tibet. As if in a horrific throwback to the time of the genocidal wizards Bilam and Bollock, Himmler's efforts culminated in the fearsome fulfillment of the prophecies of Vayikra 26 and Dvorim 28, with Holocaust victims literally being viewed by Himmler and his acolytes as massed human korbanos, actual human sacrifices in some kind of twisted black magic. In the article, The Master Race and the Chosen People, a look at the Nazi ideology in a Torah light, in the Art Scroll 1978 work, A Path Through the Ashes, it is stated that Nazism arose as an evil mirror image challenge to Judaism. Nazism versus Judaism. The chosen people versus the Herrenvolk. The Holy Land versus the Fatherland. The Moshiach versus the Führer. The Adam Elyon versus the Übermensch. The Adam Blial versus the Untermensch. Hashem Elokim versus the Herrgott. The Chumash versus Mein Kampf. Machias Amalek, the extermination, the genocide of Amalek versus the Endlosung, the final solution, etc. Already 2,000 years ago, the Talmud warned, Germania shel Edom shel male hen yotzin machrivim eskola olam kulo. Should Germania ever sally forth from out of its land, it will destroy the entire world. Gemara Megillah 6. And today, with the German Panzerwaffe, their tank force, just itching to reinvade Russia, this might yet be fulfilled.
You love it?